So thank you, Brent, so much for generously giving us your books, 2 books in the Lockdown Library. The Lockdown Library was really an idea that came about because people were locked down, work slowed down. I thought it was a great opportunity for people to do some extra reading and some extra learning. So reached out to people like yourself, very generously offered your free books. But I wanted to do these interviews to give people an opportunity to kind of get to know the authors better and hear a little bit about what you do. So you are you help organizations and teams with their marketing in a digital age. Talk to me about what that means.
There's a lot of people that are still stuck in the, I'm going to say 1980s with their marketing. They're still doing a lot of the, they're volunteering here. They're still doing a lot of the, relationship stuff does work. Yes, print media still does work, but it's also shrinking rapidly, if that makes sense. One of the reasons it's shrinking rapidly is because digital allows us to do things that traditional media and traditional advertising never allowed us to do. It allows us to laser target the specific people that we want to work with. It allows us to only spend our ad budget on the types of people that are likely to buy from us. And by doing that, rather than having this massive ad budget that goes into the citywide papers or whatever it is, and gets wasted on all of these eyeballs that don't actually buy from you, what you're able to do is you're able to spend $1 and consistently get $2 back in terms of return over and over again, just by targeting the specific people that are likely to buy. So that's kind of the distinction between what's happened pre-digital and what's happened post-digital when it comes to marketing.
Great. And I know that you specialize in kind of small changes. What does that mean?
All right. Okay. So this is something that really, gets me on my high horse here. I think there's a lot of people that go, okay, Beck, what we need to do with this new product that we're launching is we need to build a completely new brand, a completely new website. We need an offer to put out there, and we need to put all of this chain of events, these experiences, one by one, the customer's going to go through. And that when the customer gets to the end of this chain of events, this chain of experiences, then the customer's going to purchase. But before we can do any of that, we need a website. What's really interesting about some of the results that I've seen over the years is that you don't actually need a website to do really great online marketing. You can send an email and it'd be significantly more effective than sending someone to your website. Or you can send some sort of targeted promo or offer a copy of a book, hypothetically, and it'd be much more engaging than getting someone over to your website. And likewise, social media is a big part of this. If you can actually engage someone on social media, it's significantly more important than having a Facebook page, because you're actually engaging with that person rather than getting someone to visit some random page somewhere. So hang on, I've got the copy of the book here. This is Unassailable. This is all about the tiny tweaks that make a big difference to your marketing. What this book is all about is those tiny little things that you can do, the emails that you can send, if you've got an existing website, how you can do something like just increase the size of a button and get 120% more people buying your product off your website, not by changing your offer, not by changing anything about your pricing or your strategy or any of your messaging. All you're doing is taking a button that's this size and making it this size. And all of a sudden, people see it more often. It's more visible. It's more likely to get clicked. And as a result, you get a lot more people adding that product to your cart. And there's a heap of these tiny little things that you can do to your marketing. And they don't take weeks or months to implement. They can take 10 minutes to implement and get a significant increase in your marketing performance. So before you start going, hey, let's build this entire new customer journey and new website, I think it's worth having a bit of a flip through and finding the tiny little tweaks that you can make to your existing marketing that are going to get big performance increases.
And I guess at the moment, this is, there's a tendency for some organizations to kind of shut down and fall into the background, if you like, whereas a lot of the things that I'm reading are saying that this is the time to become really visible. So this is really important now for people to read your book and really magnify the marketing that they are doing.
Absolutely. If you think about even manufacturing and production, they've got all of these assets that they put into production. And a lot of those assets are running idle right now, just because they don't have, at the end of that production line, someone to purchase the products that they're actually producing. So all of this stuff around COVID-19, yes, it's a health dilemma, but it's also a really big marketing and economics dilemma. And if we can find a way to, I suppose, make sales in the short term, but also build our brand in the long term, then we're able to emerge from COVID-19 much stronger than when we went in.
Because I guess we will return to some kind of normal, and most of the things that we've been used to, it's not as though we've been in lockdown for 20 years and the world has evolved around us. We still need the things that we needed 3-4 months ago.
Absolutely, and will again. When ScoMo created the JobKeeper payments for people that are in Australia and remember the JobKeeper payments, the whole idea there was, hey, our economy is fundamentally good. And if we can keep things ticking along long enough to emerge from COVID-19, then we should be doing well on the other side of this. And so's the theory. And realistically, we should see that on the other side if we're able to, I suppose, emerge, individually, strongly as organizations.
So who did you write Unassailable for?
It was originally written, this is a bit of a confession here. It was originally written because I had all of these things that I knew how to do in marketing. And I'd get frustrated when people were coming to me and saying, Brent, I need to build an entire website. And I'm like, no. You need to, just tweak this tiny little bit of your website here. Because in 1996, when I did this for this particular client, these are the results that I saw. So what it became was a sort of, there you go, a little bit of a tome of the little tiny marketing projects that I'd implemented over the years that I'd gone, that's really weird. Why do people respond like that? Why do customers actually buy more frequently when it looks like this versus when it looks like that? And it was one of those books that I'd always wanted to write, one of those ones that I figured that if I could get this information out into the marketplace, a lot of people would stop wasting so much time on bad marketing, and they'd be much more focused on results-driven marketing and much more able to identify the things that actually work, the things that actually are likely to improve performance, rather than this well-meaning theory that we have about marketing, that if we build it, they will come. And if we get enough attention, then people will buy. And those two things aren't necessarily true. In fact, they're less true than they are false. If you have a website, for example, and you've ever looked into your Google Analytics, you've probably found that about 99.5% of people who visit your website never buy. So that means your website is only there to serve the 0.5% of people that actually do buy. Hang on, so you're telling me this website was a core part of your actual marketing, and it's more unsuccessful, wildly more unsuccessful than it is successful. All right, so what is it that is about your website that can actually be successful? And how do you maximize the success that you're able to get from that tiny percentage of people that are likely to buy? And how do you get a couple more of those people through the website? And how do you increase the percentage of sales that they make and the dollar value of sales that they actually purchase? And these are the kinds of things that light me up and I get a bit nerdy about.
Well, that's what we want, your enthusiasm. What's one takeaway people can take away from you today? I mean, they're going to read the book, but what's something that they can maybe do straight away to have a bigger impact?
The easiest thing to change about your marketing is to stop being professional. Dear sir, madam, nobody wants to receive your dear sir, madam letters. Stop being promotional and saying the top 5 ways to buy from Beck, and just be personal. if you're able to market in a personal way, it significantly increases the response rates of any marketing that you do. And it's a little bit counterintuitive because we only ever see the dear sir, madams, and the promotional stuff and the branding stuff that's all out there. But the reality is, let's say I wanted to invite you to a party, Beck. I'd probably send you a text and say, hey, Beck, I'm having a party on Friday. You want to come over? Don't worry about bringing anything. And you'd probably go, yeah, I'd love to be there. Versus, dear ma'am, or dear sir, ma'am, you're cordially invited to a party. Or the top 5 reasons why you should come to this party at Brent's house. So in our everyday life, we know, intuitively that the personal works far better if we want a response from someone, but we don't actually apply it to our marketing. We worry that it's unprofessional, or we worry that we should be direct response copywriters and use all of those, Huffington Post clickbait headlines in our marketing, when the reality is the personal works far better than any of that.
Brilliant. That's an excellent, because I think you're right. A lot of people try and be professional. And it's interesting that looking at the books in the Lockdown Library and having conversations with people that have got the books in the Lockdown Library, there's a common theme around authenticity, integrity, being real and not being perfect. And actually being perfect can alienate the very people you're trying to connect with. So it's really interesting that there's that theme. This is where the world is moving to, and whether it's in marketing, whether it's just in the relationships that you have, just being more real, which is interesting in the time when we can't actually be together.
Yeah, and it's also something that we're not necessarily comfortable with online. I've got a client that works exclusively on social media with their lead generation. And actually, I've got a couple of Cleese clients, and their whole social media strategy is to essentially send personal invitations to people via direct messages, and to do it in a way that's authentic and generous and that people respond to, and that people are actually thankful for receiving these messages. And we know how to do that offline in networking scenarios, but if we can do this online, it works really well as well.
Brilliant. And so where can people get a copy of your book other than the Lockdown Library and access you, Brent Hodgson, if they want to work with you?
There is, my books are available on Amazon, Booktopia, all of those weird and wonderful places where you can purchase books online when you're not going into a bookstore. It's also available on Kindle and iBooks. But if you send me an email, brent@brenthodgson.com, I'd be very happy to share it with you.
And no website for you.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Let me lean into the camera here and tell you a secret. It's far better for me to connect with you individually and personally than it is for you to get you to my website, brenthodgson.com. So you're more than welcome to email me at brent@brenthodgson.com, or you can get in touch with me on my social medias on LinkedIn at Brent Hodgson. But yeah, feel free to send me an email, and I'd be very happy to share a copy of my book Unassailable with you, or if you prefer,
Fantastic.
Beyond the Booth.
Beautiful. So tell us a little bit about Beyond the Booth, because we haven't talked about that. Who was that written for?
That's written for the trade show market, which at the moment isn't doing too much at the right now. It's the biggest scam ever, Beck. All right. This is how trade shows work. Okay. In order to play at our trade show, you need to pay like 10 grand. And that 10 grand gets you this tiny little space that we've carved out in a big expo hall. But you're likely to have the people that are likely to buy from you walk past. And if enough of these people walk past, maybe you'll get your 10 grand back. Maybe you won't. And the truth is, a large portion of people that actually exhibit at trade shows don't get their 10 grand back, or their 3 grand, or whatever it is at your particular industry events. There are people that consistently do get that money back and make a massive return on investment. And we've been talking about that personal connection side of things. The problem that a lot of organizations have with trade shows is that they just show up and expect, come buy from me, I'm ready to take your details, put your business card in there, and all of a sudden we're going to end up with this great relationship where you're going to purchase from me. And that doesn't necessarily happen. The organizations that do really well, though, are the ones that I suppose prepare ahead of time, and they they warm their audience up. They invite existing prospects in to see them at the expo as well. And then they have this beautiful follow-up that happens after the event. One that isn't just, here, let me add you to my newsletter list. One that is actually engaging, one that's actually generous, one that actually starts conversations around the products and services that you sell. And if you can do this, then it kind of doesn't matter if you're actually at the trade show, because you've got this beautiful strategy for engaging people in your audience. And the way that your trade show booth sits, or where your trade show booth sits, is it kind of sits as part of this complete breakfast. Not as just the toast, but as something that's, you know, part of an entire marketing strategy, part of something that feeds on other things and actually complements and enhances your entire marketing strategy. And the irony of all of this is that even people that are in lockdown and unable to go to these expos and events right now can apply all of the strategies except the booth strategy and still use it to get B2B leads. So if you're running a service-based organization, or if you're running a wholesaler, or any of those sort of organizations where you rely on those high-value B2B connections, excuse me, then a lot of these strategies are just for you. Certainly now, as well as when we end up back in expo conference halls, you know, all of that sort of stuff.
If ever, hopefully.
Yeah, fingers crossed.
Yeah, that's great. And I think that's exactly what people need right now is, don't just stop, keep going and think about your strategy now and long term. And I know I shared a really good post of yours on LinkedIn where you actually mapped out what the time frames look like, and what's, you know, what we'll be experiencing and what we need to be planning for. So if anybody wants to get linking with you on LinkedIn, that was a really good video I shared across my whole network, because it was so useful, I thought. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
LinkedIn really does work sometimes.
Yeah, it certainly does.
Well, thank you so much, Brent. It's been awesome to talk to you. And thank you so much for generously sharing 2 of your books. And the Lockdown Library's going into its 3rd edition very soon. So we'll be adding even more books. So yeah, it's great. So thank you so much for being a part of it.
Thanks for letting me nerd out about the things I'm passionate about.
It was lovely to talk to you. Thanks, Brent.
Thanks, Beck.